All right, a very good afternoon to you all in Pakistan and everybody from outside the world. We are doing this session called Graduate Studies, and it's part of our campaign called Let's Talk Study in the USA. We are Education USA Pakistan. We are a part of US State Department network. We are the official source of US higher education across 430 international student advising centers across the world, and our presence is in more than 178 countries across the globe. Within Pakistan, we have 3 centers: Lahore, Karachi, and Islamabad. We are actually here in Pakistan and all across the world to promote US higher education and tell students about the information and share accurate, comprehensive, and complete information regarding US education. We do not charge any amount of money for our services. All our services are free of cost, and we take great honor in what we do. Today, our session, Graduate Studies in the US. We have 3 different universities and their representatives present here to answer your questions and to share information about the prospects of graduate students in the United States. We have Mr. Corey Cottingham from NYU Tandon School of Engineering. We have Maggie Wolford from Binghamton University, and we have Gordon Berridge from Bentley University. Hello. Thank you for being here today. Thank you so much for joining us for this session. And thank you for taking out your time. I hope you all are doing great. You're welcome. Yeah. So my name is Mariam Khan. I'm an education advisor at the Lahore Center for Education USA Pakistan. I have personally done my graduate studies from the US. I did my MBA in marketing from Missouri State University, and I also did my Master's of Project Management from Missouri State University. My experience as a graduate student has enabled me to come back to Pakistan and do the job that I do, which is more than a job to me. It is more like a passion. And I help students with the same questions, the same queries that I went through, the same problems that I faced when I was taking up my graduate studies in the US. So doing this session is an honor for me. Having these 3 extremely respectable representatives is an honor for me, and having you all here as participants for this session is an honor for me. I will invite Maggie from Maggie from Binghamton University to give a general overview of graduate studies in the US, and then we can continue with our session. Thank you, Maggie, for doing this. Thank you.
Of course, thank you. So good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Just a very brief overview for everyone who is attending. When we talk about benefits of a graduate degree from the United States, one of the most important things that we talk about is higher earning potential and lower chances of unemployment. So a lot of students are able to achieve these degrees, and at least within engineering, which is what both I and Corey represent from NYU, there's an analysis that shows that over the course of your working career, someone with a master's will earn on average about 1 million USD more than someone who does not have a master's. So there's a lot of earning potential there, and these things can compound upon each other. A lot of us will give you tips about how to search for programs, but to just speak very briefly, I think it is important to note that you should always apply to more than one school. Make sure you're giving yourself options. And when you are searching for programs, look for people like myself or Corey or Gordon, because there's always somebody from an admissions team who is willing to answer your questions about the program, whether that's talking about requirements or the application process or something with regard to maybe their fellowships and scholarships. And so my suggestion there is to be sure that you're searching, looking online, talking to your professors, working with offices like Education USA Pakistan, and to really make sure that you're giving yourself the best chance. Pretty much every university in the US has an online application at this point. There's a very few who still have a paper application, and all of these are going to have a lot of the same pieces. So there's the actual application where you're filling in things like your name and your address, things like that. And then you are going to have to report your scores. Most universities will require official, but especially given the novel coronavirus, some are willing to accept unofficial scores or are looking at alternates or waivers for some of these requirements. So again, it's good to be in touch with the program to get information on that. So for this, they would require a GPA. There's also oftentimes a GRE or GMAT if you're looking at business school, MCAT if you're looking at medical school, DAT if you're looking at dental school. And then international students also need to show English proficiency. So TOEFL, IELTS, PTE, some universities are accepting Duolingo. Again, it's good to be in touch with the university you're looking to apply to, just to confirm exactly what they're going to require of you. You are going to have to submit transcripts for every university you've attended, as well as most universities would require a personal statement, a resume or CV, and letters of recommendation. Letters of recommendation could be 2 or 3. They may require that one be from a faculty member or may require that one be from a supervisor if you're currently working. And then again, any program specific materials. So if you're looking at a program that's going to be doing things with English literature or journalism, you're probably going to need to submit a writing sample. If you're doing something that's more in the visual arts, you may need to submit a portfolio, things like that. More often than not, all of this information is on a university's website. You can get very clear instructions about what that university is going to require. But again, and I'm sure I will reiterate this several times, it's always good to connect with people from that university. If you do have questions, don't let it fester too much. Don't, really worry over it. Just reach out. We're happy to help address your questions.
Thank you, Maggie. We will continue with our session. We have, so all the rest of you who have just joined us, please note that this session is about graduate studies in the US. We have representatives from 3 different institutes in the US, which are NYU Tandon School of Engineering. We have Binghamton University, we have Bentley University, and these reps are answering questions about graduate studies in the US. So we will start off with the next part of our session, which is about the three reps representing their schools. We'll talk about their schools in specific. So I invite Corey Cottingham from NYU Tandon School of Engineering to talk about the graduate studies in his institute. Corey, can you please start off? And thank you for being here today.
Yeah, thank you, Miriam and Maggie, for that introduction. And assalamu alaikum, and good afternoon to everyone. I've been going to Pakistan every year for the last five or so years, and I'm a bit sad that I can't be joining you this spring, but hopefully by the fall or early next year, I'll be back in Pakistan visiting Lahore, Karachi, and Islamabad again. Again, I am Corey Cottingham. I'm an Assistant Director of Graduate Admissions at the NYU Tandon School of Engineering. So I work specifically with graduate students interested in programs in engineering, science, and technology. I'm going to go a bit quickly through this information because we have 3 schools and want to do plenty of question and answer with you, but I'm going to start out with a short video on the school. So there's a very quick overview of the school. You can see some of our laboratories where we're located. So before I get started, though, I'd like to say, again, I represent just graduate engineering programs. We have a total of 31, over 11 academic departments. In total, the school has, well, first off, if you're interested in NYU Tandon, these would be a full list of the programs available, both MS and PhD programs. Currently from Pakistan, we have around 20 students on any given year, a number of Fulbrighters as well. And NYU as a whole actually has more international students than any other university in the US. You'd be joining a very international community, though. The school as a whole has around 5,300 students, of whom over half are graduate students. So we're a bit unique as a graduate school in that the school as a whole is focused on grad as well as undergrad. but it gives you a much bigger community of graduate students to connect with while you are here. Many students are concerned with the GRE. What's the minimum? What do I need to have? And I'll talk a bit more about that later, but as a general, to give you a general idea, for the whole school, our average graduate GRE score would be 151 and 164 for the quantitative side and 151 on the verbal side. So that gives you an idea. That's not a minimum, but it does let you know what other students are submitting. We do require a minimum GPA of 3.0 out of 4. We will convert your GPA from the Pakistani system into the US system, so no need to worry about doing that on your own. Tandon itself has students from around 60 countries. NYU has students from well over 100 countries. So as I mentioned earlier, you'll be joining one of the most internationalized campuses in the United States. For the past year, we had around a 35% selectivity, so we need to adjust this slide a bit. But so about 1 in 3 students would be getting in after they've submitted their complete graduate application. I'm not going to go through the whole history of NYU Tandon. There are plenty of different innovations that we have been on the forefront of throughout history, but the school was started in 1854. We're the second oldest private institution of engineering and technology in the United States. So we have a long history of innovation and continue that into the future. I don't think that engineering rankings are the most important thing, but it's important that you know that NYU is well regarded by many different ranking agencies. One thing that I'd like to point out is we're currently number 38. I know the slide says number 40, but number 38 among engineering schools in the US. And this is important not because of the number, but because of the trajectory. NYU Tandon about 10 years ago was ranked somewhere around number 80, and now we're at number 38. So we're a school that in the past 10 years has seen a huge jump in its recognition, and we can expect that trajectory to continue for the foreseeable future. One of our biggest strengths as a school is not only our, of course, great academics and the students that we bring to study here, but our location. So we are located in downtown Brooklyn. For those of you who don't know, New York City is the second largest tech sector in the United States after Silicon Valley, Silicon Alley, for those of you who like puns. But one of the things that we talk about is the Brooklyn Tech Triangle. So you'll see here on this slide, just in this area, we have nearly 10,000 employees working in the technology sector at 1,400 different companies with nearly a $5 billion impact on the Brooklyn economy. So you'll be able to do internships and perhaps work afterward at these companies due to our strategic location in, yes.
Sorry to cut you, but we lost our connection with Facebook. And those of you who have just joined us on Facebook, I would just want to welcome you all here. Please know that this session is the Graduate Studies Information session from Education USA Pakistan. We have representatives from 3 American universities, which are giving us information about their graduate programs. I'm an education advisor at Education USA Pakistan Lahore office. We are US Department of State network, part of US Department of State network of 430 international advising centers across 178 countries in the world. In Pakistan, we have presence in three cities: Lahore, Karachi, and Islamabad. And we provide our services free of cost. We provide comprehensive, accurate, and current information to students, and we do not charge any money for it. I am so thankful for Corey, Maggie, and Gordon to be here and providing information about their graduate schools. Sorry, Corey, I cut you, but this was really important because the students must know what we're actually providing them information for. Thank you so much, and you may continue.
All right, welcome again to everyone who just joined us. Again, I'm Corey Cottingham from the New York University Tandon School of Engineering. So I'll speed up a little bit because I want to give our next schools a chance to talk as well. But if you're interested in innovation, we do have what we call Future Labs, which functionally are incubators. To date, we've had over 100 companies launched out of our Future Labs. One thing to note that as an international student, those Future Labs, if you choose to work as a graduate assistant in any of those labs, they count as on-campus work. So you're able to work in what feels like a bit of a private sector job, but does for your visa status count as on-campus employment. This is a short list of the centers and laboratories that are associated with NYU Tandon. This is by no means an exhaustive list. I would encourage you to go onto our webpage to look at the different laboratories that are associated with all of our different departments and programs. 2 that I'd like to point out for you are our Media and Games Network, our Magnet Lab, which is connected with our Integrated Digital Media Program, and the NYU Wireless Lab, where Ted Rappaport is one of the leading researchers in the world on 5G technology, and NYU Tandon has actually been selected as one of 6 US universities to begin pioneering work into 6G technology after 5G is widely rolled out. As a student of NYU Tandon, you'll also have access to all of the schools of New York University. New York University is the largest private nonprofit university in the United States. So we have campuses. The engineering school is located in downtown Brooklyn. Many of our other schools are located in the Washington Square area of Manhattan. This is important to you because if you are interested in taking courses through, say, our College of Arts and Sciences, College of Business, etc., as a student, you would be able to take courses at any of NYU's schools with approval of your advisor. So you can really focus your degree on what you are interested in preparing yourself for professionally afterward by dipping into the other schools at NYU. Now, here's a schematic of the New York City area. The torch logo at the bottom in Brooklyn is where we're located in Brooklyn, and then our Washington Square campus in Manhattan is there on the top left where the torch is located. One of the things that we count as an advantage is that we have 10 different subway lines within a 5-minute walk of our campus. So wherever you choose to live, do internships, socialize in New York City, you'll be able to do so quite easily due to our good subway connection. Of course, if you're coming to do a graduate degree, career services are going to be important to you. We do have 2 different offices, and I'm not going to go over everything, but I think one of the unique things that we do offer is personalized job coaching for students with career coaches who are specifically tuned into the needs of companies that hire in the areas of engineering, science, and technology. So they'll work with you and help to connect you to job opportunities specifically match up with your prior studies and career goals. Another thing that they'll offer is benefits negotiating. So when I first graduated from university, I didn't quite know everything about how to negotiate a job offer, benefits packages, etc. But our Career Services Center will be able to help you negotiate that process so that you get the best possible circumstances for your first job out of university. Many people ask about on-campus employment. NYU Tandon reserves teaching and research assistantships for our PhD students. Master's students are able to work as graduate assistants. That's functionally on-campus work where you could work up to 20 hours per week, again, on the campus of the university for around $20 per hour. So those graduate assistantships won't pay for everything, but it does help to offset your cost of living. If you are admitted into one of our PhD programs, you would receive, in almost all cases, full funding as well as a a stipend to help with your living expenses. At the master's level, we have merit-based scholarships that reach about 1/3 the cost of tuition. As many of you know, New York City is the densest and most populated city in the US, and it's a place that also represents the highest level of diversity in the world. We have over 800 languages spoken in New York, and 50% of New Yorkers speak a language other than English at home. So you would be joining a place that is cosmopolitan, is known for its diversity, and celebrates that. I'm going to speed up a little bit because I want to give Maggie a chance to talk as well. But NYU Tandon, to close out, we have a 97% career placement rate for our graduates of engineering, science, and technology programs. That means within 3 months of graduation, 97% of our students were working within their field of study or continuing on to a PhD. Mid-career salary range of $120,000 per year. And we've also been ranked number 4 among US engineering schools for salary potentials. I'll be sharing my contact information later, as well as a sign up for you to get more information, as well as an application fee waiver if you are interested. With that, I will turn it over to Maggie.
Thank you, Corey. So hello again, everybody. My name is Maggie Wolford. I represent the Thomas J. Watson School of Engineering and Applied Science at Binghamton University, State University of New York. Could I request, Corey, you go to the next slide? So I am Maggie. I am originally from Kentucky. I hold a Master of Arts in Public Relations and a graduate certificate in institutional effectiveness. And I am the Director of Graduate Recruitment and Admissions for the School of Engineering. My colleague, Owusu Boche, is also in the comments section watching this session and is available in the chat to help answer some questions if anybody has questions there. He is originally from Ghana, holds a master's and PhD, and is our new graduate recruiter hired about a year ago. Next, please. Thank you. A brief introduction to the SUNY system. You may have heard about this. I know some people call it the SUNY system. We do have 64 campuses total across the state, 4 of which are PhD granting university centers, many of which I'm sure you've heard of before: Albany, Buffalo, and Stony Brook. But Binghamton University continually comes up as the most selective SUNY, which is based on the number of applications received versus admitted. And we are really proud of the high caliber of students at our program. Next, please. Just a brief introduction to let you know where we are. Of course, with Corey talking about NYU, everybody knows where New York City is. We are about 3 hours from New York City in what's called upstate New York. It is a short drive from major cities like New York City, Philadelphia, Washington, D.C., and this can be a big help to you when you're looking for jobs and internships. Next, please. Just a couple of quick facts about Binghamton. We are the birthplace of IBM, which I'm sure you've all heard of, in Endicott, New York, just across the river. It is one of the safest US cities. When I moved, it was the 9th safest city in America, a fact that my father was very glad to hear about. And the cost of living here is very low. It's about 12% below the national average. So even though we're in New York State, it can be very affordable to live here. Next, please. Okay. So for Binghamton University, we do have 6 schools within the university: the Harper College of Arts and Sciences, where you could do everything from psychology to biology, anthropology to music. There's also the School of Management, if you're looking at something with an MBA, for example. The School of Pharmacy and Pharmaceutical Sciences, which is currently only offering a PharmD, but is looking for some master's programs as well. The College of Community and Public Affairs, which offers programs in education, social work, things like that. The Decker School of Nursing, and then the Thomas J. Watson School of Engineering and Applied Science, which I represent. Okay, I don't know why that formatted that way, but within the Watson School, we have master's and PhD programs in biomedical engineering, computer science, electrical and computer engineering, material science and engineering, which is a transdisciplinary program between mechanical engineering and chemistry, mechanical engineering, and then our Department of System Science and Industrial Engineering offers masters in industrial and systems engineering, system science, and healthcare systems engineering. We also have a new 1-year Master of Science in Data Analytics, which is also transdisciplinary between the School of Management, the Department of Economics, and the Watson School of Engineering and Applied Science. You may have heard a bit about us in the news recently, as one of our faculty won the Nobel Prize in Chemistry last year. This is Professor Stanley Whittingham, who actually helped to found our Materials Science and Engineering program. We're just very proud of him, and I think it really speaks to the level of research and the caliber of research happening at Binghamton. I'm actually going to stop things there just because I know we are trying to be mindful of time. I will just mention this is Owusu and my contact information, and we'll also be sharing a form. If you'd like to hear more information about Binghamton University, please complete the form at this link, and I will connect with you over email and get you more specific information that way. But thank you very much, and I will hand things over to Gordon from Bentley University.
Thank you, Maggie, so much. I really appreciate that. So as Maggie mentioned, my name is Gordon Berridge. I'm the Associate Director for Graduate Admissions here at Bentley University. Corey, if you could mind going to the next slide, I'm going to put up my contact information. I'm also putting into the chat box
Gordon, you're muted.
Thank you very much. Oh my goodness. Sorry about that. So I just posted some information in the chat box. If you want some more information from Bentley University, you have my contact information. I'll also be posting a application fee waiver code. Bentley University, we're located just outside of Boston, Massachusetts, which is about 3 hours north of New York City for us. And we're just located about 19 kilometers outside of Boston is where we're located. And we've been around for a little over 100 years. We are a business school. We are known for our accountancy, finance, analytics, mostly our business programs through this particular university. So we'll go to the next slide. So the university, we have 58 different countries represented at our university. We are about 46% international students. At the graduate school, we have about 1,300 students, all is said and told. Pretty average class size is about 26, with no more than 32 students in a classroom at our particular university. Next slide. And our career outcomes, about 97% of our domestic students are placed within 3 months of graduating. And for our international students and overall population, a little over 90% of our students are reporting accepting a job within 3 months of graduating. These are some of our top employers hiring our students all across the world. We're really fortunate to have some pretty strong partnerships with them as well that I'll talk about in just a moment. So we'll go to the next slide. So we really emphasize a lot of technology in our university, really emphasizing about implementing this technology into the educational system and making sure that you have some practical hands-on training. We have the Huey Center for Financial Services. This is an actual trading room where you can learn about trading with finances. We have a really amazing partnership with NASDAQ, which is an index here in the US. We also do have a partnership with Bloomberg as well. We also have the User Experience Center where companies come in that are working on some of the newest applications in technology and how people interact with technology. We also have the Center for Marketing Technology where real companies come in and do some market research, do market testing, launching of new products as well. I've been fortunate enough to do some stuff with Converse most recently, which was a lot of fun. I got to wear Converse for about 3 months at the university. Converse, if you're not familiar, is a shoe company and a clothing brand. Community information as well. No, that's okay. We also have our ACE lab, which are electronics lab as well. So we're going to talk about our programs right now. Thanks, Corey, as we go through. So we'll go to the next slide. So we offer an MBA program. Our MBA program takes about 2 years. It can be completed in as little as 12 courses or a maximum of 15. We offer 8 different concentrations as well. And that takes about 2 years to go through. So I'll jump to the next one. We also have our accounting and finance focused master's degrees. We offer a master's in accountancy analytics, which is a STEM designated program. We have one in taxation, and then our master's in finance, which is currently recently ranked as the #4 best master's program in the United States, which is also offers a STEM designation as well for that particular program. So we'll jump on to the next slide. And then our analytics and technology focus. So we have an amazing business analytics program and marketing analytics program. Bentley, we've been doing analytics for a little over 20 years. So we've been really at the forefront of this technology. All of these programs that you're looking at here are STEM designated. We also have the User Experience Center for the Masters in Human Factors Information Design. And this is ranked as the #1 graduate program by UX Magazine for those students who are interested in user experience. And again, all of those are STEM designated. We'll jump on to the next one. So we do offer merit aid and assistantships. We do offer funding for our students, averages about 20%. We also do offer students the opportunity to work right on campus as well. And that is based on the overall quality of your application. It's not based on need. And these are application deadlines. We are currently accepting applications for 2020. The application deadline for our international students is July 1st. So we are still taking applications as of now. And then we also will start taking applications for 2021 in September. Next slide. And again, this is my contact information right here. You can contact us at appliedgrad@bentley.edu, or you can go to our website as well. I've also posted some information in our chat box, and in a moment I'll be placing some information on how to submit your application for free. And so right now I'm going to toss it back over to Marion before we talk about some additional information. Thank you.
Thank you, Gordon. I hope all of you have actually availed the information and have gained some insightful facts about the graduate studies in the US. So before we move on, I will invite Corey to talk about a specific topic related to the graduate studies in the US, and that is about the standard tests. The requirement of GRE, GMAT, TOEFL, all the standard tests that are required for graduate admission in the US. And I know for a fact, since I was also a Pakistani student, I know a lot of students are discouraged, or they actually feel anxious before they even think about applying to a graduate school in the US, since these exams are considered a big hindrance. Corey, can you please shed some light on this topic?
Yes, like, so I was a graduate
Yeah.
student in the US. I understand the kind of hesitance to take the GRE. It's not a very fun thing, but it is something that's going to help you overall in graduate school, or rather to get admission to graduate school. So why do universities use the GRE? One of the main options is because, or reasons is because we have students coming from all over the United States and all over the world. And so the GRE is the only piece of information or the only part of your application in which you have sat for the same test that a student from other countries and other parts of the United States have taken. So it's one of the ways, although it may have its flaws, that we as universities can compare students coming from different backgrounds, different universities, etc. The other part is it does prove that you have some basic skills in terms of English language usage, mathematics, and writing skills, as well as subject-based tests if you are asked to take this as well. So I understand that it's not the funnest thing to do, but it is something that we use in order to make sure that you have the skills necessary to compete in our programs. So if we admit you to a program and you're not ready academically, you're going to probably have difficulty. So we want to make sure that you have the basic skills, which is why we do use the GRE. One thing I want to note, sometimes you'll get information from universities' emails, and that's because many universities will receive scores from top scoring students and then reach out to them to encourage them to apply. So if you get emails from universities after taking the GRE, that would be the reason. One thing that we often see is that students don't plan ahead enough time. So in general, most universities will have the deadline between 6 and 9 months prior to the start of the program. So for example, if you're looking at starting in September of 2021, the deadline will probably be in early of 2021. So I would encourage you to plan on taking the test 9 to 12 months before you plan on entering the program. And this is important as well because many universities consider the application deadline as requiring not only your application, but also all of the other required materials in terms of language testing, GRE, of course, and your recommendations. So you need to look at the deadlines for each program and make sure you've taken the GRE with plenty of time to send those to the school in whatever format that they do require. So one of the things that we get often is that students will email us a PDF of their score report. In some cases, we're able to, some universities rather may accept this, but many universities will require that you send your official score reports, and that will need to be done either by listing the university or program when you are taking the test with ETS, or afterward, you can go onto the ETS website and request that those official scores be sent to the university. So it's very important that you pay attention to whether the university is willing to accept unofficial or not, because if you send unofficial and the university is looking for official, they're not going to be able to evaluate your application until that is received. So do, as with everything, pay attention to the fine print on that. So in terms of the way that the GRE is used, it does vary heavily by university, by individual programs within the university. In most cases, it's not going to be the primary determinant of whether a student is admitted or not, but rather part of a wide, holistic approach, looking at your GPA, your resume, your coursework, your recommendations, and then also your testing scores. So some schools may say that it is preferred, others may say that it is required. In general, I would encourage you to take it because if we're looking at two students who are equal, both have, let's say, 4.0 GPAs, one has submitted a GRE score that is strong and another has not. If I have to choose between those two students and I have the GRE score that does demonstrate strength in terms of verbal, quantitative, and writing skills, I may choose that student. So even if it is just preferred, I would generally encourage you to take it because it could help your chances of admission. One thing to note as well is that most universities are going to be asking for the general GRE. Some will also require a subject-based test depending on your program of interest. So do pay attention to that and look if you will also need to take a subject-based test, although that is a bit less common at this point. One thing to pay attention to as well, I work at an engineering school. So for us, it's much more important how you do on the quantitative section of the GRE than on the verbal or writing section. So if you're applying to a creative writing program, they're probably going to be focusing more on the verbal section. So think about the programs you're applying to and which parts of that will be more important for you. Of course, if you do great in all of the different sections, that's going to be an advantage for you. But in general, universities are going to be looking more at the part that correlates with the program that you're trying to enter. As I mentioned earlier when I talked about NYU Tandon, most schools do not post minimums for the GRE, some do. What's more common is you'll see an average score for the university, for the school, or for an individual program. Because we don't want to discourage students who perhaps have lower scores and have very strong GPA and recommendations, et cetera. So for us as universities, GRE is not the only thing we're looking at. So we don't want to give a minimum score, but rather we'll give you an average to let you know what other students who are being admitted have in terms of verbal and quantitative scores. Again, the importance of it does vary by the program. Some professors are very focused on the GRE, others not so much at all. So you can ask that to admissions staff, whether the GRE is heavily considered or kind of a secondary part of the admissions process. It does vary quite a lot between programs. One thing that I should talk about as well is not only for whether you'll be admitted or not is the GRE important, but also some schools, and mine included, will use the GRE as one of the factors to determine who receives merit-based scholarships or merit-based funding. Some other schools may also use that when they're looking at awarding resident assistantships or research assistantships, rather teaching assistantships or graduate assistantships. So having a good score could help you stand out from the cohort of other admitted students to get one of those top research or teaching assistantship spots. So that's another reason that it is important. As you all know, we're dealing with the effects of the COVID-19 outbreak currently. And that has changed the way that some schools are working with the GRE. We understand that most testing centers are closed. The GRE has responded by that by creating an at-home test, which you take the test and you're observed by testing officials as you're doing that from home. We as a university and many other universities know that not all people have a great internet connection, et cetera. And so my school and many others are granting waivers on a case-by-case basis for people who are unable to take the GRE, and some are going test optional on a longer term. One thing to note though is even if a school is granting waivers, as I mentioned earlier, if you do have a strong score, it may help you kind of stand out from the crowd. So even if it's not required, I would still encourage you to take that at-home test if possible to give yourself a better chance of admission. The current waivers and test optional policies are generally looking at fall 2020, maybe spring of 2021. We'll see how things play out if these changes in testing policy become permanent or are phased out after this admission cycle. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Maggie.
I'll take it over. So since we have so many questions coming in, I would want Maggie, if you could just discuss funding options available for students at graduate level. We know about the possibility of securing a research, teaching, or a graduate assistantship. Since I was a graduate student in the US as well, and I was lucky enough to secure a graduate assistantship, which enabled me for 100% funding for 2 of the masters that I did. So for all of the students who are posting questions in the chat box, yes, it is possible to secure 100% funding. And yes, I'm an example of that. Maggie, over to you, if you could just shed some light on this. Thank you.
Absolutely, thank you. So oftentimes we encounter students who have heard about these different types of funding, but maybe don't have a great understanding of what they are. So I'm just going to run through some of the types of funding very quickly, because we understand, of course, that this is one of the most important questions. After you find out that a university has the program you're interested in, you need to know how you would pay for it. So when you hear people talking about research assistantships, these are typically where you are assigned to a faculty member or a research lab and you're working on a particular project. So these research assistantships could be for 1 year, 2 years, if you're a PhD student, maybe a bit longer, or you may be on multiple research assistantships in the time of your degree, just based on how long those projects are running. Teaching assistantships are typically given by the department, where research assistantships are given by a particular faculty member is often how that is set up. So the teaching assistantships would be where you are assisting with a class, whether that means that you're teaching while the professor is maybe at a conference, maybe you're running your own class. You may be helping to grade exams, different things like that, but you're getting a bit of teaching experience and assisting with that process. Graduate assistantships, which sounds a bit more generic, is typically like a more administrative or professional position. So this is the kind of position I had when I was going through my master's program. I was working in the graduate school at my university, helping to organize webinars and information sessions, doing a bit of travel to go to local graduate school fairs, things like that. And so often those are like a staff office position, but you're only working for the 20 hours per week. Most assistantships at universities in the US are going to require about 20 hours per week of work, but they offer a full tuition scholarship or a partial tuition scholarship, as well as a stipend to live on. If there's also external funding, which is something we encourage students to look at, we would consider a Fulbright, which I know the Education USA office talks about as external funding, or maybe your government offers funding, or maybe the company that you're working for offers funding for students to get an advanced degree, things like that. And I'll be talking a little bit more about how to find some of those opportunities in just one moment. But one of the main questions is just when should you ask about funding? And I would say this does vary a bit by university. If you're looking at PhD programs, you're probably asking about funding at the very beginning. You want to know if a faculty member has any openings in their labs, or if they guarantee funding for PhD students, things like that. So this becomes part of your initial questions when you're getting connected with the program. But if you're looking at a master's program, often I would say this is something to ask once you know that you meet all the minimum requirements. It's good to reach out to someone, again, from an admissions office or team, because they can generally give you some information. When you're looking at how to compare offers, so the example that I've been giving most recently is on one of my latest trips, I met with a young woman and her father, and she had been admitted to NJIT, New Jersey Institute of Technology, which is a private institution outside Manhattan. And the father said, you know, she's been offered a 25% tuition scholarship, so why should she come to Binghamton? And I had said, oh, okay, well, give me one moment. I got a pad of paper out and I wrote out the math on what the 25% tuition discount would be for that university versus the tuition of Binghamton. And Binghamton was still significantly cheaper. So when you're being made offers by universities, you want to see what exactly is that going to cover? Does it make it more feasible for you to attend that university? Or should you consider one of your other admit offers because the tuition is more competitive, things like that. Of course, cost of living is also something to consider. If you're given a, say, $10,000 stipend, that goes significantly farther in a place like Binghamton, New York, as opposed to if you were in Silicon Valley, where the cost of living can be much more expensive, different things like that. So what to do if the school that you want to attend doesn't offer you funding? You should be searching for options. So Corey, if you could go to the next slide for me, please. This is a screenshot from our website. You can see the link there. I will also share that in the comments. But this is for our Office of External Scholarships and Undergraduate Research. And this is literally a search tool on their website where you can say, I'm a master's student looking to study electrical engineering, and then click search. There may be some additional questions. So it may ask, you know, are you a man or a woman? Because some of these opportunities may specifically be for women. They may ask if you're an international student, because some may only be for, say, for example, a resident of New York State. Others may be only for international students. And so this will give you just a list of scholarships and fellowships. I know the Fulbright often comes up here for students. And so that would give you a few options to consider. And it's also good to look at this just to ensure when you're looking at these fellowships and opportunities that you're not missing any deadlines, things like that. I know it was talked about earlier that you need to be going through this process early and applying early and trying to think everything through. This is certainly one of the pieces that would take a bit of extra time. Often some fellowship deadlines would be in fall 2020 if you're wanting to study in fall 2021. So they can have very far out deadlines, and so it's good to be mindful of that. Of course, I think my main piece of advice on this, again, is just to ensure that you're connecting with the admissions teams and the recruitment teams at the universities you're looking at applying to, as they're going to be able to give you the most specific information about that particular university, because everybody is slightly different.
Thank you, Maggie. Now, may I please ask Gordon, if you could shed some light on future after graduate study from the US, what's in store for you? What is it that the student must look forward to? Can they even score a job? Can they stay in there? If they come back, would they be able to score a job? Can you please shed some light on that? Thank you.
Absolutely, I'm happy to. Thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it. So I'm so excited to talk about this particular topic because, let's face it, this is the whole reason you're looking to go to a graduate program, is to be able to increase your career. So the benefits of earning a master's degree in the US, there are some specifics. The benefit of getting a master's degree is that you're getting specialized specific knowledge in a particular area. Unlike maybe your undergraduate degree, where maybe you did have a concentration, but you're taking a lot of courses in other areas as well. Typically, a master's degree is a very focused, specific area. And so it gives you that specialized knowledge, which ultimately improves the overall value that you have for a potential organization. It also allows you to get some potential opportunity to improve your value within your community as well, because you have this specialized knowledge. A lot of students earn their master's degree as well for that career advancement. Perhaps they're looking to get to that next level in their career. Perhaps they're looking to get into maybe a more advanced position as a director, manager, maybe start their own business. So they're looking for that next level in their career. Also, what's really a benefit is coming to the US. US is one of the top destinations. It is the top destination in the world for education, for international students. And so it really gives you an opportunity because people are coming from all over the world to attend school here in the US. And so just naturally from that experience, you're developing an international networking group. And what's nice about this is it gives you an opportunity to work with all of these different people from different experiences, different backgrounds, that allows you to look at potential issues or problems from different perspectives as you're going through this process. And then it gives you an international experience. As I mentioned, you know, when you're coming to the United States from Pakistan or anywhere else in the world, it gives you the opportunity to have an international experience that will allow you to bring that experience either back to Pakistan or perhaps stay here in the US and work for a little bit or for a long time as you're going through the process. So those are some of the benefits of earning your master's degree here in the US. We'll go to the next slide. So after you graduate from the university here in the US, you have a couple of different options. So the first one is the program, and you maybe heard me refer to it during as STEM. I think my colleagues, Maggie and Corey, did the same thing. What is the difference between STEM and non-STEM programs? So there's something called OPT here in the United States, and it's optional practical training, which is something that allows you to do after you graduate from a program. If it's in a non-STEM degree program, you get to stay on your F1 visa after you graduate from the programs, and you're allowed to work in the US for about 12 months. 3 months of that, they do give you after you graduate to find a position, but that is part of the 12 months. Please note that that no guarantee of getting OPT after you graduate, although it is a very low percentage are denied. And so when you go to your university, they typically have a department that can work with you on this. I know ours at our university is called the Center for International Students and Scholars. Typically, most universities have a department like this that can help you through this OPT process and help you apply for it. And again, that's why we have that low percentage of denials. You can start applying to this OPT 90 days before you complete your degree, but please do note it's no later than 60 days after you complete your degree. So there is a window of opportunity to apply for that OPT. But again, that's where you reach out to your university and they can work with you in helping you get that OPT process. Now, there is something here in the US, if your program is designated as STEM, and STEM stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math. Same thing, you do stay on your F1 visa, that is your student visa. It allows you to extend your OPT for an additional 24 months. So this gives you a total of 36 months to work in the US on your student visa. Same thing, they do give you 3 months after you graduate to find a position, although I think my colleagues would also agree, we recommend that students start looking for jobs long before you graduate. Work with your career development office at your university, start looking for jobs before you graduate. That's the best option for, especially for international students. Again, same thing with even the STEM degree option. There is no guarantee, but again, there is that low percentage of denial. And again, you're going to work with that, that department at the university to help international students. And again, the same thing, 90 days before you complete the degree, you can start that, but no later than 60 days after you complete the degree. There's also a website here, uscis.gov/OPT, that talks a little bit more about it. Again, this is kind of a high overview of it and the difference between a STEM and a non-STEM program. So the other option you have as you graduate, we'll go to the next slide, from the program is where to work. This is one of our alumni. He graduated from our Master of Science in Finance, which was a STEM designated degree. So he did work for a little bit here in the US. And then he ended up moving back to Pakistan. And he is now working for the Office of the Auditor General of Pakistan, and he's one of the directors for special initiatives. And he was really nice. He gave me some great advice that he wanted to share with all of you about his experience in the United States, and then what students should look for, particularly from Pakistan. And again, he talked about how it's a multi-ethnic and multicultural country with an economy that's so big that it usually really is able to assimilate all the business, particularly those STEM students, as you're going through these programs. And when you're here, make sure that you are really exploiting the full potential of living in the US. You know, explore the country while you're here. Get outside your university. Make sure you really get that full international experience. Build that network while you're here. And then, you know, try to work for challenging and interesting organizations as you're here. You know, you can also do internships while you're with these programs. And then also this networking that you're doing while you're here, this can be the path to land a good job. And a lot of that passes through, he said, this is his direct quote, passes through the roads of this country in his opinion. And so, and again, it allows you to have that international experience that again, you can either leverage into a position here in the United States through that OPT opportunity, or to bring that experience back to Pakistan or anywhere else in the world where you're looking to work that you can bring with you. So those are some of his pieces of advice. Really great. I was so excited to be able to speak with him, and I was so excited to have him share some of the experiences after graduating from our university. So we'll go to the next slide. So now I'll turn it back over to Miriam, who's going to talk a little bit more about Education USA.
Thank you, Gordon. Thank you for sharing all the valuable information. As you can see, you can connect with us on all these mediums. We have a Facebook account, a Twitter account, and an Instagram. You can also use our official hashtags to find out information about us. Thank you for posting all the wonderful questions. I have picked out a few. And I would first start off with Maggie. So Maggie, if there's a student who has a study gap and is interested in taking up majors in arts, would Binghamton be ready to take that student on board? Would their admission chances be penalized because of their study gap?
So certainly not penalized for any kind of study gap. Actually, some of our programs at Binghamton University offer GRE waivers for people who are coming with work experience, because we know that if you're working, it's very difficult to really dedicate yourself to the exam in the same way. So I would say certainly not going to be penalized for the education gap. If you have specific questions about, you know, ensuring that you're going to fit into the program, do you need to do any, I know we have a couple of departments who provide some YouTube videos that are sort of refresher courses for people who have maybe been out of school for a short while. Not a formal requirement, but just something to help you sort of transition back into school.
Okay, thank you. Gordon, there is a question from a student who's asking for tips since he's in the final year of bachelor's and he wants to go for his grad studies to the US. Any quick tips that you could give to him?
Yeah, absolutely. No, and I'm so glad that he's starting to look now, or she's starting to look now. I think it's so incredibly important to start that process early. Some of my other colleagues here mentioned that you want to start that process early, start looking in And in your senior year, my biggest piece of advice would be reach out to the admissions departments, reach out to them, talk to them, find out what requirements they are. Maybe there's some particular courses that they're interested in you taking. You know, I'm on here with two great engineering universities, and so maybe they're looking for some quantitative courses, you know, courses that, you know, maybe relate directly to the field that you're interested in pursuing. But they can also maybe look for internship opportunities, or maybe if there's other things that your college or university offers that applies directly to what you're looking to do at the university. But I think the biggest tip or advice I would give is do events like this, you know, work with agencies like Education USA to get additional resources, reach out to universities in the United States that you're maybe interested in. And in particular, really make sure, again, that you reach out to those admissions offices, talk to them, and also maybe ask if they can connect you with alumni of the university, or perhaps other students, current students, that get in more information as well. I think that'd be really helpful.
Thank you, Gordon. Thank you. So a question for all of you. Are there any changes to your admission process and admission requisites owing to COVID-19? How has it impacted the prospects of a graduate student in the US?
No, Corey, go ahead.
I was going to say, for us, my university and many others will require official transcripts for evaluation in a normal year. What we have done, because many universities are closed around the world, are we're now accepting transcripts that are either sent electronically by the university, or for evaluation purposes, unofficial transcripts that are sent by the student. Of course, we would still require you to send those official transcripts once your university is open, but we know that's going to be hard for many students to get those, so we're making more flexibility there. As I mentioned in the GRE section, we're also granting waivers for GREs for students who are unable to take the test. So we're, in general, just being a lot more flexible with things, because we know people can't get out and about, and many of the services that they would need to access to provide documents are not open.
Yeah, I think flexibility is definitely the word I would use as well. Our university, for example, has started accepting Duolingo as an English proficiency option, which is something that we were not accepting previously, and it had been sort of slow going in researching that option. And then as soon as everything shut down due to COVID-19, they were like, okay, we're accepting it. Here's our minimum score. And so I would say it's definitely good, again, to be in touch with people to see sort of what's possible. For us, for example, you know, we can be more flexible in the GRE, but we still have to have something for the English proficiency, whether it is the TOEFL that you've taken at home or Duolingo or something like that. But that, unfortunately, is not negotiable, where other pieces are even more flexible, like the GRE.
Yeah, and I echo my colleagues, the same thing. I think so many universities here in the United States are being very flexible in their application processes, whether that's for testing or requirements or things like this. And so just reaching out, talking to us, you know, letting us, you know, telling us, you know, if you're having any issues, if you're having any concerns, and seeing what we can do to help. We all understand, you know, that these are trying times, and we're all trying to help out as absolutely best as we can. So I think communication, and we'll work with you.
Thank you. Thank you, Gordon. Thank you, Maggie. And thank you, Corey, for sharing all the information and for helping Pakistani students with it. I would want to end this session with one last question, and that's the most important question. How many Pakistani students do you guys have on campus, and how has their experience been so far? We'll start with Maggie.
Sure. So Binghamton University does have, especially in the School of Engineering and Applied Science, we have a number of students from Pakistan. I looked at our admission report the other day, and across campus, there's about 100 students. Within the School of Engineering and Applied Science, we've got about 40, both at undergraduate and graduate levels. I actually had a friend who just returned from Pakistan and brought me these great earrings when they went to a wedding. And so we are very, very glad to have our connection there. One of the students who graduated in 2017, who is from Pakistan, actually has a degree now, or a job now at Google. And so we have been tapping them a lot to do information sessions and try to get more students into that company. It's a great connection for us.
Wonderful. Corey?
I don't have specific numbers right now. I know Tandon has, like I said, I think around 20 enter per year, more give or take. We had around 90 applications from Pakistani students just for the engineering school. NYU has, I would assume, well over 150 Pakistani students. Like I mentioned earlier, I've been going to Pakistan at least once a year for the past 5 years, so I have a lot of relationships with students that I've met there. Just yesterday, I've been working with a student who was admitted to one of our master's programs who's applied for the Aga Khan scholarship. So I hope she gets that and will be joining us soon. But there are plenty of examples of Pakistani students having great success at NYU.
Amazing. Gordon?
Yeah, no, thank you. So overall at our university, to our undergraduate and graduate program, we have probably close to about 50 Pakistani students, more so at the undergraduate level, although at the graduate level, we've been really excited. We've really seen an increase in our application and interest from Pakistan, which I'm so excited for. And so we've been seeing more and more really excellent applications from there for our particular programs, particularly our analytics programs. And so we've had some great success so far over the last 2 years, especially at the grad school level, getting some really outstanding candidates from there. So hopefully everyone listening here, we can get a couple of more as well. It would be great.
Amazing. Thank you, Maggie, Corey, and Gordon. For everybody who's attending this session here, the panelists have shared information about, contact information about themselves, even on the presentation and even in the chat box. You can copy the information and you can write to them directly. And also you can write on our email ID, which is advising@uscfpakistan.org. You can connect with us on any of our social media handles, which is our Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram page. We are here to help you, and we are so delighted and grateful for these representatives talking to us directly from the United States of America, and it is quite early in the morning for them. Really appreciate your help here, really appreciate all the information that you have shared. Have a great day.
Thank you,
everyone.
bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye.
Thanks, bye.